Hi, thank you all for coming. Everyone who's in person, we had, I think because of the cold, a lot of people ended up choosing to follow us on the live stream. So this is being live streamed and recorded, so you can share if anyone wants to tune in at home. So I'm very excited to introduce Yasmine Helwani. Yasmine is a special education teacher as well as a board certified behavior analyst. She is in the Clifton Public School System and studied in Montclair. We are very excited to have her today. I'm personally very excited to have her today. So thank you. Without further ado, Yasmine. Oh, and sign up for winter programs. They're now
All right. Thank you so much for having me today, Pat. Thank you so much for putting this together. So my name is Yasmine Helwani. I am a special education teacher and BCBA, and I'm here to talk about effective self-regulation techniques for neurodiverse children. So just a little background on myself. I have been in the field for 8 years now, and although I have a lot of experience working with children between the ages of 2 and 16, I'm not a parent. So, I am limited in that aspect, so I just want to say your feedback and what you guys can bring to the table is just as beneficial, if not more, because you have the most experience as parents. So I'm just going to get into the schedule for today. So we're going to start with a mindful moment. We're going to do 2 mindful moments, one kid version and one adult version. We're going to talk about tantrums and meltdowns. We're going to get into antecedent interventions, and then we're going to get up and move for a yoga break. And then we're going to talk about what to do during a meltdown and after a meltdown. And then we can talk about any questions that you might have. So we're going to start with our mindful moments. We're going to do the grown-up version first. Sorry. I'm sorry. There you go. Okay. Okay, so that was our mindful minute, and then we're going to do a little kids version of this. This is something that I like to use with my students and children that I work with, and it's called crab breathing.
Sometimes we all feel a little crabby. Our eyebrows might feel heavy, our lips a little heavy, and our patience a little shorter than usual. Let's learn crab breath to help us relax. Breathe in through your nose. Hold your breath and twist your crab claws 5 times as you hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out and do a crab dance. Let's try together. Breathe in through your nose. Hold your breath and twist your crab claws 5 times. Breathe out and do a crab dance. Try it again. Breathe in through your nose. Hold your breath and click your crab walk 5 times. Breathe out and do a crab dance. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in through your nose. Hold your breath and click your crab walk 5 times. Breathe out and do a crab dance.
Okay. So does anyone know why we practiced mindfulness and we did that? Any ideas? Oh, you could join. You should know all the answers. Anyone know why, Rania?
To bring us into the moment.
Yes, to be present, to let go of all of our stress from today, anything that could have happened, just to be present and in the moment with where we are right now. And mindfulness really helps with that. So now we're going to start talking about tantrums. It's a fun topic. So what does your child's tantrum look like? Let's hear some. That's not.
Throw himself on the floor.
Yeah, throw themselves on the floor. Crying. Screaming. Anyone else? Yes, kicking, aggression. It could look like a lot of different things, but oftentimes when you see a tantrum, it'll be, dropping to the ground, throwing yourself on the floor, a lot of crying, maybe some screaming, maybe using some language or saying some inappropriate words, exhibiting some aggression. So that's the gist of it. So we're going to talk about what you should do during a tantrum. So when a child is having a tantrum, the most important thing to do is making sure that they're safe. You want to make sure that there's nothing around them that could be of harm, especially if they're throwing themselves on the floor, or there's nothing that they can grab that could be dangerous. Once the child is safe, it's okay to ignore the behavior and try to redirect it with something else. You can give positive praise for the things that they're doing right, and then just staying consistent is really important. If you give the consequence or you say no to something that the child wants, you should not give in and do what the child wants. Eventually, with patience and persistence, the child will move on from the behavior. So that consistency is the most important thing, especially when you're at the grocery store or at Target and you're in the toy section and your child is screaming because they want a new car or a toy and you say no. The child starts to scream and it's hard because it's public and you're in public and there's people watching and you're surrounded by so many people, but if you say no, then you should be consistent with that and say, follow through. And we're going to talk about some ways to go around that and how, some techniques to kind of help you with strategies. So believe it or not, tantrums and meltdowns are actually not the same. So tantrums occur when a child's reaction is happening because he or she wants something.
Do you mind pressing the slideshow? It's really small.
Oh yes, sorry.
Just so you can follow along.
There you go.
There you go.
Tantrums happen because he or she, the child wants something or is denied something desired. The child is wanting or looking for attention from others and is wanting a reaction. So they want you guys to respond to their behavior. The child is typically safe during a tantrum. If it is unsafe, it is because the child is choosing to be unsafe to get the adult's attention. So tantrums usually occur because the child is denied access or wants attention for something. Meltdowns occur when a child is stressed or overwhelmed. The stress can come from what is happening at the time, from what the child is feeling or what is being asked of the child. Behavior is not because of what the child wants, and it can continue even when the child is not getting attention. So what we're going to really be focusing on today is those meltdowns. There you go. You can see my little Bitmoji on every slide. So why do children have meltdowns? Yes.
Tired.
Very good. Tired is a good one.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
You're fine. They don't have immediate access to something they want.
Immediate access.
Overstimulated.
Overstimulated is a really good one. That's a common one.
Hungry.
Hungry. Yeah. I mean, we all kind of get meltdowns. We're hungry, tired. But those are all really good. That's exactly it. So it could be medical. I want to really point out that a lot of times, especially kids who are pre-verbal or don't have the same level of communication skills that other kids might have, might exhibit more of those meltdowns because they have a hard time communicating what they want. So medical is a good one, especially when the child, again, is unable to identify what they're feeling inside or they're not able to tell you what's wrong. Frustration, maybe they're having a hard time with something they're being asked to do. Again, tired, hungry, transitions is a big one, having to go from one place to another. Overstimulated, the lack of coping skills, so not knowing what to do when their body is feeling these emotions. Lack of verbal skills, and again, like we talked about, communication. So I like this quote that I wanted to include. Children never choose to have a meltdown or any anxiety-related behavior in the same way you would never choose to have a meltdown in front of your family, friends, or colleagues. A meltdown is not a choice. It is a byproduct of a brain that isn't coping with something. And the brain needs to be showered with love, compassion, and safety, not punishment and shame. So I like to include this because, as adults, myself included, when a child is having a meltdown, is crying, is screaming, is getting aggressive, it kind of, our fight or flight gets activated when that happens. We start to feel these emotions, these big emotions, because the child is screaming, the child is, exhibiting aggression, and it's really hard to, react in an appropriate way in the moment. It's really, really important to make sure that they're not being punished and there's no shame, even when it's really hard to do that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, especially towards the end. So all behavior is a form of communication. Anything that we do is a form of communication. So when a child is having meltdowns or challenging behaviors or struggling with something, that's their way of communicating that there's something wrong or there's something that's upsetting them. And now we're going to talk about self-regulation. So we know that meltdowns and tantrums happen, but what is self-regulation? Self-regulation is the ability for children to control their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in response to a situation. It is the foundational skill that helps children learn to focus on a goal, work with others, and plan and organize. So being able to regulate your emotions just means you're able to cope through difficult situations without reacting in a really aggressive or inappropriate way. What is dysregulation? Dysregulation makes it difficult for children to manage their emotions and reactions. So some signs of dysregulation in children: frequent irritability, temper tantrums, outbursts, unprompted outbursts, difficulty self-soothing, crying uncontrollably, and refusing to talk. Emotional dysregulation can be a symptom of other conditions such as ADHD, autism, developmental delays, mood and anxiety disorders. So it's just important to keep this in mind and keep this in the back of your head when your child is having these meltdowns and what causes it, and what are some signs of dysregulation in children. And the goal today is to talk about some strategies on how to get children to regulate their emotions. So this is a word that you might not have heard before, but this is big in the behavior world. It's antecedent interventions. So antecedent interventions are what you do to prevent a meltdown from escalating and occurring. So I like to use the analogy of brushing your teeth. You don't want to wait until you get a cavity to start brushing your teeth. You want to brush your teeth to prevent a cavity from occurring. So antecedent interventions are strategies that you can use to prevent behaviors like meltdowns and tantrums from occurring. So it's really important to just take this into consideration when you're planning throughout your day, and also planning for meltdowns. you start to pick up patterns in children of certain times that they might have a hard time, like maybe going to school or getting ready for bed. And you want to start, planning some strategies to prepare you for that. And that's what antecedent interventions do. So we're going to talk about a couple of different antecedent interventions that have helped me as a behaviorist and a special education teacher that I use regularly with the students that I work with. So visuals are really, really important. Visuals can be used to improve communication, provide structure, reduce frustration, build confidence, and promote inclusion. So you want to think like anything that you're telling your child, you want to think about how you can make it visual. So these are some different examples of visuals that I've used that have been really great, especially again for kids who don't have the same level of communication or pre-verbal and need a little bit more guidance and support. So I have a sensory choice board, some different activities that the child can choose to do, especially if they're not able to communicate their wants. This one right here, the traffic light, is probably one of my favorites. I actually found it really, really effective. So pretty much what you do is you have an arrow that's pointing to the red, which means to wait. Yellow means that it's almost my turn, and the green means that it's my turn. So this is a really great strategy to use and a visual to use when if you have a child who has a really hard time waiting. First then is a really common one. Again, it's important to use with kids who might not have that communication. Younger kids, this is like very, very simple, and it's easy to understand. So, you say first circle time, then we're gonna have snap, just to show the child what's gonna happen next, what they have to do first, and what's gonna happen right after. Stop and go signs are also a really great one that I have used. So if you have a child who tends to run out the door or leave the room without telling anyone, a stop and go sign could be really beneficial to put on the door. So stop sign, that's generic. It's something that we all know what it means. Stop sign means to stop. And then you would flip it to go when it's time to leave and go. I have using the bathroom visual. So again, if the child is not able to communicate when they need the bathroom, it's great to have visuals around the house that says, I need the bathroom. And then just choice boards. So anything that the child can choose. So instead of saying, what do you want to do next? Or what do you want to do right now? You're offering choices that are available for the child to do. This kind of goes along in the same direction, but visual schedules are really important. So visual schedules are essential to create a predictable environment. They can help children follow routines, develop new skills, and become more independent. They can also help people understand what to expect during activity and create connections. So I have an example of a visual schedule right here. Pretty much what you want to do is, a lot of times when children have problem behavior, maladaptive behaviors, it's because they don't know what's coming next. And the environment is not predictable. But when you create an environment that is predictable and they know what to expect throughout the day, it tends to help with those challenging behaviors. So I have a visual schedule here that I made. So pretty much what we have is things that are not done, and then as the child moves on through the day, they can move the pictures from not done to done. I also have another example. So it's kind of along the same lines, but I have so I have a morning routine one. So if wake up, brush your teeth, take a bath, get dressed, eat breakfast, put on your shoes, and then once the child finishes each one of these, it would get moved to all done, and they would move it so they understand that this is done, and they can see what they have to do next. It's the same thing for after school, bedtime, and then there's also a generic one that you can just use throughout the day. The next one is timers. Raise your hand if you've used a timer before. Effective, not effective. So timers can be used to help with transitions. It helps give a visual of time passing. So this can help manage anxiety by offering a structured and predictable way to transition between activities. It can also help with completing difficult tasks and changes in routine. So timers have been a game changer, especially in my classroom. It's very, very helpful. When we're transitioning between activities, with just the amount of time we have to do an activity, it has been really helpful. So I used the timer today when we were getting ready to start. That's one form. You can just, Google and YouTube the timer. But these are also some other examples of different types of timers. I really like these timers right here, the pizza one and the red circle, because it actually shows the time passing. So, if you are telling your child that they have in 5 minutes they're going to get ready for bed, then we're going to clean up and we have to get ready for bed in 5 minutes. They can actually see the time passing with those timers. So I find these to be the most beneficial. The red, yellow, and green timers I have found really great for auditing. So a lot of times you might have a child who struggles to initiate the bathroom, so they won't tell you when they have to go. This timer is great because it'll be on red, and then it'll turn to yellow when it's almost time to go, and then in green it'll start to beep, and then the child will just have to press it to turn it off. So I found this to be really, really helpful. I really like this timer the most. It's actually an app on your phone. I like it for convenience because it's just easy. Like, you can be out and you just can pull up the app and it's just on your phone. It's very easy to just navigate. The app is called Countdown and it actually has this duck on the picture. But pretty much what you do is you would just set a timer for 2 minutes or however much time you're giving to your child. And then as the time goes down, you can start giving warnings. Okay, like we have 1 more minute left, we have 30 seconds left, and then the timer will completely, when the timer rings, it's time to go. So this is, again, really helpful. I really like it because it's on your phone, you'll always have access to it, it's easy to use. And then sand timers are also great because it helps with those kids who are sensory seeking because they're watching the time go down with sand. I found it to be very helpful because the kids kind of forget what they're doing and they just focus on the sand going down and they want to beat the timer. So I like to use it when it's time to clean up. So I say we're going to clean up in 2 minutes, the timer's going down, it's like, okay, I need to clean up before all the sand finishes. It's kind of like a game. So those have been really helpful. Okay, calm down corners. Raise your hand if you have a calm down corner in house, apartment. Nice, that's good. So a calm down corner is a really, really important piece to have in your home because you're giving the child a place, a safe place that they can go to let those emotions out, those big feelings out. They have a designated area in the house to go. Because oftentimes when the child is having a meltdown in the middle of the living room, there's a lot of people around them, a lot of things around them. It could be very overstimulating, but having a designated area in the house where children can go, that they feel comfortable going to, it can be really, really beneficial. So again, a calm down corner is a safe place where children can go to regulate their emotions and calm down. The purpose of a calm down corner is to help children self-regulate, build emotional intelligence, and understand unpleasant feelings are normal. We don't want to tell children that they can't have these feelings. We want them to understand that they can have these feelings, but it's just, we want to teach them how to have them in an appropriate way where they're not destroying things or hitting anyone or throwing things. Just really important to do. So here are some tips when you're thinking about creating a calm down corner in your home. You want to think about location. You want to choose an area that's private and it's away from in front of the classroom, or you don't want to have a calm down corner in the middle of the living room because that's where most people hang out, or the kitchen. That's where a lot of people hang out. You want to put some comforting items like a soft rug or a beanbag chair, or maybe some plush toys that the child has like a connection to, some toys that they really like that they can squeeze. And then some soothing materials like books or stuffed animals or quiet toys. And the most important thing is teaching the expectations of the calm down corner. how to use the calm down corner, what it's for, and then you want to set agreements, make some rules, how long that they can go there, what they can do if they need more time, and what behaviors are safe to have in the calm down corner. So I have some examples of different types of calm down corners, what they look like. I also have some visuals to show what I put in my calm down corners. Put this here. So you want to put like a nice sign. I have a little peace corner sign. I have a visual that shows the different emotions, happy, sad, angry, embarrassed, so they can identify their feelings. And then I have some different choices for breathing. So they can choose. So this visual provides different ideas for how the child can breathe. So if they choose to do star breathing, they can just follow this where it says to put your hands on your knees, breathe in slowly, raise your arms like a star, and put them back down. So they can choose the different way that they're breathing, which also gives them some control over the situation. I also include different strategies to calm down, so they can choose how they want to calm down. And then some different strategies to solve the problem that they might have. So how do you want to solve it? Do you want to get help? Do you want to ignore the person that upset you? Do you want to say, please stop? Do you want to play with someone else? Do you want to take turns? Or do you want to say how you feel to the person that upset you? So these are some different visuals to show children how they can solve the problem that they're having. And yeah, say those are the most important things to have. You want to provide strategies and how they can calm down, and express how they can solve the problem. This is, I would say, what not to do. This is actually my calm down corner that I had last year in my classroom. I would say, it looks great. It's really nice. The fireplace is a great touch. But that fireplace might have lasted like 2 hours because when the child was there, they completely destroyed and ripped down everything. So I wanted to put this as an example of what not to use. I would say less is more. I would try not to include too much because oftentimes when the child is having really big feelings, they tend to rip things off, destroy some things, throw things. So having really pretty things like that doesn't really help in that situation, and it might have taken me like 2 or 3 days to make, so. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the zones of regulation. Raise your hand if you've heard of zones of regulation. So zones of regulation teaches children how to develop self-awareness of their emotions, energy levels, and allowing them to identify when they are moving to a less regulated state. It also teaches strategies to manage their feelings and behaviors. So, pretty much what you're doing is you're teaching children their emotions using colors. And the best way to do that is with Inside Out. Inside Out is such a great movie, and I love that movie, because it really, really teaches children how to manage their emotions, what they're feeling, and they connect it to colors. So they're making that relevant connection. So, looking at the visual, I also have one here that I like to use when the child is feeling blue, or that they're in the blue zone, maybe they're feeling sick, tired, bored, maybe they're moving slowly. When they're in the green zone, they're feeling happy, calm, focused, ready to learn. When they're in the yellow zone, maybe they're feeling frustrated, worried, silly, excited. And when they're in the red zone, they're angry, they're mean, maybe they're hitting or yelling, and they're completely out of control. So a nice strategy that I like to use is asking students. I like to check, we like to do a self-regulation check-in. So I like to do this throughout the day. So I know when the students are coming in, or you can even do this at home with your own kids, as soon as they wake up, what zone are you in? And maybe they get to circle it. So that way you can kind of get a sense of the mood that they're in and how they're feeling. That way you're able to understand what might come. So if the child comes in and they're circling that they're sick, I might understand that maybe they're feeling a little tired, or maybe they're not feeling well, so I won't put the same expectations that I normally do. If they're feeling like they're angry, then that's your cue to kind of talk about what's going on, what happened, what's causing you to feel this way, and you're being preventative. You're trying to prevent a tantrum or meltdown from occurring before it actually happens. So zones of regulation can be really, really helpful. Okay, the next antecedent intervention is positive praise. And this is something that we tend to do, but a lot of times we tend to not do it very direct, and I'll get to that. So positive praise helps reinforce positive behaviors, build self-esteem, and confidence. It motivates children to continue trying, helps them recognize and understand what they're doing well, and it will increase the likelihood of doing those actions again. So this is the part that I really want to emphasize. When you're giving praise, you want to be very specific as to what you're praising them for. It's one thing to say good job, but it's another thing to say, I really like how nicely you're sitting down. I love how nicely you're writing. You're being very specific in what you're saying, so that way they're understanding what they're doing right. And it'll, again, increase the likelihood of them doing that again in the future. So it's really important, again, that you are being very specific when you're talking or you're giving praise to your child. And providing choices. So instead of telling the child what to do, providing choices can promote a sense of control, increase engagement in activities, reduce challenging behaviors, and give children the opportunity to express their preferences and participate in decision making. It helps them feel more empowered and involved in their daily routines. So it's nice to have choices, because there are times where the child does not want to do something. You know that they're not going to want to brush their teeth. You know, it's a problem every single night. Every single night they have a meltdown or they're crying, I don't want to brush my teeth. But if you say, would you like to brush your teeth or would you like to wash your hands first? You're giving them that option. You're providing choices. They feel like they have control, they have power in what they're doing because they chose. So going along, you can even like give choices with food, right? If your child has a hard time choosing what they want to eat for dinner, maybe you're giving them a visual. What would you like to eat for dinner today? Would you like to eat pizza or would you like to eat chicken? So like you're giving them options, and then you can either do that with like break time, anything. You just want to make sure that you're providing those choices. It gives them a sense of empowerment. Whenever you can, of course, because there's sometimes that you can't provide choices, and that's, model and teach. So this is really important. It's something that we forget to do, but oftentimes in my classroom, if I'm getting frustrated and I'm getting upset, I model and show them that I'm going to the calm down part because I'm feeling very upset and I'm feeling that, I just need to take some deep breaths. So I'm modeling what I'm doing. I'm using a calm down pin. I'm blowing bubbles. I'm using a pinwheel. I'm showing my students that when I'm upset, this is what I do, because they learn through what they see. They're gonna follow every single thing that you're doing. You're their models. They are looking up to you. So if you're modeling the things that you're telling them to do, they're more likely going to do it. So again, modeling self-regulation strategies shows children healthy ways to manage emotions and behaviors, and they will also learn to imitate these skills by observing a positive example. And this sounds a little crazy, this one. Everyone's always like, high probability response sequence. But to break it down, I have this visual. Instead of giving a child something that you know is going to be hard for them to do, like again, I'm going to use the example of brushing your teeth. If a child has a hard time brushing their teeth, maybe I'm going to give them 3 very easy things that I know they can do and like to do first. So, come give me a high five. Come give me a hug. Can you put this in the garbage? All right, now we're going to go brush your teeth. So you want to lead up to it instead of just going right into the hard task, because it creates momentum and creates motivation to complete difficult tasks. And this is something that helps and it works a lot. And physical activity. So just being very in tune with like our physical movements. You want to give them the opportunity to use their motor skills, social functioning, communication abilities, overall behavior by reducing repetitive behaviors, maladaptive patterns, and promoting physical health. So physical activity can be really beneficial. Putting your child in Taekwondo or swimming classes, just giving that child the opportunity to move, get those get that energy out, it really, really does help. So some examples of physical activity: sensory taekwondo, swimming, some cooking is even, physical activity, movement breaks on YouTube. So maybe, having a video playing on the TV where all the kids are just following along, doing some yoga, putting that part of your daily routine, and playing side and side with them. Just having them get up and move around. Those are all some great strategies to use to promote physical activity. And this, I wanted to include noise-canceling headphones, because if your child is known to having a hard time in really overstimulating environments with a lot of people, noise-canceling headphones could really help that child in those situations. So if you know for a fact they don't like big crowds, they don't like a lot of people, it's important to think ahead. Antecedent interventions, you want to think ahead. And noise-canceling headphones could be one of those ways where maybe they have those headphones and they're not hearing the same level of noise. I like to use noise-canceling headphones when we have assemblies at school, because a lot of times, we're all in the auditorium, it gets really crowded, there's a lot of kids around us, some kids are screaming, some kids are laughing, it gets very overstimulating even for myself. So I can only imagine how some of our kids feel. So noise-canceling headphones are just a great way to prevent that meltdown from happening, because you're reducing the sound, you're blocking out unwanted sounds, and you're just helping them focus. All right, we're gonna do a yoga break. So you guys can stand up. I told you we're gonna move. All right, so I'm actually using the same slide that I do with my students every day in the mornings. We're gonna do the moon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now every morning they want to do yoga. They're telling me it's time for yoga. We're gonna do the frog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Warrior 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rainbow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. To a windy tree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And warrior 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you guys can sit down. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they'd like to say about antecedent interventions before we move on? Yes.
In terms of emotions, at what age do they understand the concept of emotions? Because I have a 2-year-old, so.
I would say that's a good time to introduce. I'm sure you can kind of fill.
My daughter's like almost 2, and we're still like learning the concept. I feel like the color thing with like red, angry, green, tired is working like really good with her, and she's starting to understand it. I have a compound corner with her, and she's like, cause she's young, like she doesn't like a lot of these things like I can't do yet with her. And but she's like, I think introducing it early is like really helpful.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say as early as even just in exposure. Modeling, again, I'm feeling sad. When I'm sad, I'm in the blue zone. Like you're just, again, connecting it to colors, because colors is something that they can actually relate to, and a lot of them know the colors.
You can also, just to add on to what you were saying, you can add on just basics, like start off with the basics, happy, sad, angry, to start off, because they don't understand frustrated yet.
Yeah.
They don't understand, like, I don't know, what's
Stress, I guess.
Yeah, like, just start off with those 3 and then just kind of work your way up the more she's understanding what it is. And when you say it, you model what you're saying too. Like I'm happy, are you happy? Look, you look so happy. So she can kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
Do stories too. Like with all since he was like in stories, I think that's a good model. He got used to that too, and I think that's helped him like be able to express his feelings more and just sharing.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yes. There's stories, and a lot of the stories like that you're reading have, children in the stories or animals in the stories that are having emotions. So you can make those connections. Oh, the elephant was feeling very sad. I feel sad when, you're making those connections.
So on the talking stories, there's a book called The Color Monster. I got it.
I love that story.
If you haven't had it,
That's a good
it goes
one.
through emotions. It's very nice. So I have a question about the calm down corner.
Yes.
Because I know I love the concept and I've tried to do it at PAC a few times. But like at home, like how do you differentiate the calm down corner? Because I don't do time. I used to do timeout, and my daughter
I'm
reminds
not
me.
judging you.
We don't do timeout anymore. I used to do timeout like when she was 2, and she still holds it against me. But it's okay. But how do you like differentiate between the two? Like how does it like, you know, and she's okay, you know what, go to, because like anytime I tell her sometimes like go to the other room and take a breather, she'll come back and say, oh, he's sending me to timeout. No, I'm not sending you to timeout.
Yeah.
She's 6, so that's what happens when they grow up.
I see what you're saying. And I think again, just really before you even like introduce the calm down corner, you're really talking about what it's for. You know, and you're really, really, really explaining this is for when you're feeling sad. This is like a comfortable place. You're providing things that they feel comfortable. Whereas timeout, they're sitting in a corner by themselves, maybe faced to the wall, you know, they don't have anything comforting there. So when you're in the calm down corner, they have like a plushie, they have maybe some fidgets that could help them get through those feelings that they're feeling. But I completely understand. I would just say the biggest thing is just making sure you're really explaining what it's for before. And you're also going to the calm down corner. So you're showing her that when I'm upset, anyone, you, maybe it's dad, brother, sister, we're all going to the calm down corner when we're upset. It's not, you know, does mom go to timeout? No. So yeah, you're just like modeling.
Yeah.
Anything else about antecedent intervention?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Genuine question. You can put books in the calm down corner, but I've also heard somebody say like, you don't want to tell your child like, okay, go read a book,
Yeah.
like you're punished. Like you don't want them to think like reading is a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I like that you said that you want to make sure they understand what's the purpose of the calm down corner. But can you put books in there?
So you could, but you could make it like an optional thing, if that's something that gives them comfort, if you know your child likes that, and it's something that's comforting, because there's some kids that genuinely enjoy reading,
Right.
and it's something that actually calms them down. Whereas other kids, you know, they might not enjoy it, and it might be a punishment. So I would never force them to do anything in the calm down corner. They have these options, it's all available to them, and they can choose how they how they want to calm down. Yes.
About the comment, because I know on the slide you had said like you also want to discuss with them like how long they're allowed and
Yes.
whatnot. Like what if a kid kind of tries to rig the system and like tries to get out? Like if they don't want to do something, like, oh, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm going to the calm down corner. Is that also something that's
No,
also
that's where you have to create the rules beforehand.
Okay.
So I've actually had that happen in my classroom many times. They will just get up and go, and I'm like, no, it's not what it's for.
Okay.
You have to raise your hand, you have to ask, you know, and you have to tell me why you feel like you need to go to the calm down corner. Okay, if you're in the middle of eating, you can't just get up and go. Finish your food, and then you can go to the calm down corner, and then maybe you're setting a timer beforehand. That way they're not staying there for like 2 hours. You know, really, realistically, 5 to 10 minutes is like a good time. Yeah. I wouldn't go longer than 10 minutes. Any other questions? All right, so now we're going to talk about what to do during the meltdown. So we talked about some antecedent interventions, how to prevent meltdowns from happening. Now we're talking about what to do. The meltdown's happening. It's too late. This is what it is. So we're going to talk about what to do. You want to remove any audience adding to the meltdown, and this is something that's important. You don't think that having siblings around, or in my situation as a teacher, having a lot of students around actually worsens the situation at times. So there are times where I actually remove all of my students, and it's just me and the child that's having a meltdown. You want to remove any overwhelming input, like bright lights and loud sounds. You might not think the lighting really matters, or the sounds that are around them matters, but it actually does. It really does play a role. So, you know, you want to make sure maybe you're turning the lights off. Maybe you're staying in the room but keeping a distance. You're modeling coping skills, like we talked about. You're offering preferred input, like deep pressure or back rubs. And a lot of it is just trial and error and just trying to find what your child likes to respond to best in the moment. You don't want to, you know, there are some things that are going to work for your child, and there are some things that are just not going to work. You know, one thing might work for one child, another thing might not work for the same child. So It's all about trial and error, what works for your child. But I also want to add that some kids may get past the point of intervention, and only time can really help them in the moment. So no matter what you do, it might not work. The best thing that they need, and the most important thing that they just need in that moment is just time. So again, if the child is having a meltdown, you're removing any audience, you're removing any loud sounds, any bright lights. You're staying in the room, but you're also staying far enough. You're making sure that they're safe, but far enough where you can keep a distance, unless they prefer like the deep pressure. Like there are some of my students who like need to rub their backs. That's totally okay. You know, if they're having a meltdown and they are asking for that deep pressure, there's nothing wrong with that. Here's what not to do during a meltdown. Do not ask them to make choices in the moment. So if they're past the part where they're processing new information to make choices. So if they're screaming and having a meltdown, having them make a choice is not a good idea. So unless like they're starting to calm down, I would use the stuff that is in your calm down corner. So like I can calm down. They can choose when they're ready. At that time that they're ready. But I wouldn't ask them to do anything while they're on the floor screaming. You want to wait until they start to calm down to do that. Do not ask them to engage in a brand new coping skill that they do not have experience with. This is really important because coping skills, okay, so before we start implementing coping skills, we want to teach them the coping skills. So before I teach, I tell my child to do star breathing or pretzel breathing, I'm going to teach them how to do it when they're in like a calm and happy state. I'm going to teach them how to blow from the pinwheel when they're upset, how to count to 10, what to do, drink water. I'm going to teach them how to do all those things prior to them having a meltdown. So anything that's in my calm down corner, I'm going to teach them how to use and what it's for before they're having a meltdown. This is just really important to remember. When they're having a meltdown, avoid giving punishment. It can get really hard, especially when they're getting aggressive or yelling things that they should not be saying. It's really hard. You just want to scream, if you don't stop, you're going to lose this, or I'm going to take away your iPad. It's really, really hard not to do that. So you just have to remember that their meltdown is a physical response to the child and what the child is having. It is not pre-planned or thought. The bite, the hair pull, is an attempt to gain quick, fast, and hard input to feel better. Punishment does not de-escalate those big feelings of punishment, it just escalates the situation. So in the moment, giving the child any punishment is going to make the situation worse. I would avoid it. So during the meltdown, again, when they're starting to calm down, or if you feel like this is feasible to do, you want the child to identify their feelings. How are you feeling? I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry. Then you want to use the breathing exercises, and I say token board. This is what I'm referring to. So you would say, okay, let's take 5 deep breaths, and you would take out all of the little tokens. Every time they take a deep breath, they can put one on until they get to 5. Count to 10, drink some water, and as they're doing this, you want to give them positive words of affirmation. You're doing so good. I love how nicely you're calming your body down. You're doing such a great job calming down. And then again, you want to give back rubs or deep pressure if consent is given. You definitely don't want to give back rubs or deep pressure if the child does not want that. This is really important. This is a really, really important thing. When the child is having a meltdown, you really want to be in tune with your own reactions. How you react is how you are teaching your child to react. Model appropriate self-regulation strategies if you are feeling dysregulated. I even have to remind myself that. There are times where 3 kids are screaming in my classroom and I want to pull my hair out and start screaming too. But it's one of those things where you just have to remind yourself that this is the situation, calm down, whatever you're doing is how they're going to react. It's just really, really important. It will be very difficult to help your child regulate their emotions if you are having a hard time regulating yours. This is why I say to parents, it's really important to have your own outlets. Whether it's working out, going out with friends, getting a cup of coffee every morning, or a matcha, or just having something for yourself that you can let out your stress. Because you have to remind yourselves that it's a lot for you, and there are things that you need to do to help yourself so you can be the best version of yourself for your child. It is okay to need a break, and you're human. And you have to remind yourself that. I feel like parents, all the parents that I have worked with are so hard on themselves. What can I be doing better? What can I be doing more of? At the end of the day, you're doing the best you can in the situation that you have, and it's just remember, it's really important to remember that you might need a break too. There are things that you need to do to take care of yourself. So you can be the best version for your parents, and I just want to really emphasize that. I wanted to include some alternative strategies for the older children. So some deep breathing, identifying triggers is a really big one that I like to do with the older kids that I work with. So they're able to understand what a trigger is and what are some things in their environment that triggers them. Positive self-talk, journaling is a nice one that I really like to use. Again, physical activity, taking breaks, and instead of having a visual schedule, maybe you're doing a to-do list. I do to-do lists every day. It's like a big part of my routine. Okay, and I really wanted to talk about this, and you can see the evil Bitmoji because it's scary. The point of no return. So sometimes, again, the only thing that a child needs in the moment is time, and there is nothing you can do in the moment but make sure that they're safe. There are times when no matter what you do, the child, nothing is working. You know, you're saying take your breath, you're giving them those massages, you're modeling all the right things, you remove the audience, but they are still screaming, they're still throwing, and it's just really hard. Sometimes the best thing to do is just give them time. And after the meltdown, so now the meltdown has happened, it is done, now we're going to talk about what to do next. So you want the child to clean up any mess that they might have made, anything that they might have fell to the ground. You want to give them a calming space. If you're playing some music in the background, some calming music, practicing mindfulness. Again, give them time and space, let them kind of just cope with their emotions. Maybe they're doing a familiar activity that gives them comfort, and you just want to support them. You know, do you need anything? How are you feeling now? Is there anything I can do to help you? And this is where the reflection comes. So maybe now the child is completely calm and they're ready to really talk about it. Maybe you could talk about what went right, what went wrong, how you can help them better the next time, and plan better the next time, and avoid judgmental language, and just be proactive on how things could be better for the next time that they're feeling this type of feeling or something triggers them. And you can also self-reflect and create a plan for yourself. So this is something I really talk about every time like my child or one of my students or clients has a really bad meltdown. I'm going through it in my head, and I'm thinking about what could have added to it, what I could do differently next time, how I can manipulate the environment, change the environment to prevent this from happening again. And consistency is key. So just, even if they're having the same type of behaviors or having the same meltdowns, just being consistent with the way that you're handling it is really important. It might take some time. It might take a couple of tries, but it's really important to just stay consistent with what you're doing. And as long as you're consistent and you're following through with everything, that's when you're going to start seeing an actual difference. But if you're just doing a technique, if you're using the calm down corner 2 or 3 times, I wouldn't really expect there to be a change. Because they're still not going to understand how to use it, what it's for. Even if you have to use it 10 or 15 times, it's just really, really important for you to be consistent so they understand. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, any stories, or anything that they'd like to share about anything that they're experiencing? Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
First of all, this is phenomenal.
Thank you.
It's really, really amazing. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I guess one, like, is it ever too late to start doing these things?
No. No, I would say you can start, it might be harder the older that they get to really start engraving like this new routine, but it's never too late. I think, again, if you're just consistent and you're doing something consistently, then they'll start to pick up on it.
Okay, and there's no, like, irreversible damage that you can do.
What are we talking here? I don't think there is that.
Okay, I guess the question is because I think the most important, everything you said is really important, but one of them is that you have to, like, I think with me, sometimes I notice, like, when my child has a meltdown, that triggers a lot of emotions in me, and then I proceed to have a meltdown. So it's like, I think realizing that and kind of really taking a second and realizing, like taking a deep breath, and I think also, like you said, like, I think that's key, like what triggered me, what made me feel that way, what caused me to get to that point of where I'm also having a meltdown now. And then, like you said, planning ahead. So for example, like with me, sometimes I don't get like overstimulated, and then like something from my inner child gets triggered, so then I panic. So then it's like now, like I know, for example, if I have a system with my husband, if he's around, I'll be like, okay, I'm tapping you in. Like I have to go take a
Yes,
deep
you
breath.
might need to go for a walk. You might
Exactly.
need to listen to a podcast, drink some water.
Yeah.
But that's really important, and I think that's a really great reflection because a lot of people don't have that self-awareness or so it's really great that you do. And again, it's very normal to have those feelings. I have them all the time. I really do. Even till this day, I'm like, oh, I should not have reacted that way. We're human. So it's just important to reflect on that and just say, how could I have responded differently to prevent this from happening? And there's some times where maybe you did not get a lot of sleep, or you're tired. You have to think, going back to the very beginning, we talked about what causes meltdowns.
Yeah.
Lack of sleep, frustration. All of those things also apply to us.
Yeah.
Tired, hungry. So it's a really, really important reflection to make. Anything else? Anyone else? Yes.
When you spoke about giving your child options, yeah. What if they're insisting on the thing that's not the option? Like, for example, my son, he's 2, he's really bad at eating at this age. And so let's say, do you want chicken tenders or pizza? And he's insisting on something he can have, like chocolate.
Yeah, that's a common one. But I would try to show him the pictures.
Okay.
So like these are your options, or maybe give him like 3 options, and show him the pictures and see if that helps. He can point to what he wants, or he can like tell you what he wants. Excuse me. By looking at a picture, but then also just being consistent. You say these are the options. This is what we're having, but also maybe in the beginning of the week you're creating like your meal plan and you're getting his input. So maybe on Monday, do we want to have rice and beans or do we want to have chicken? You're giving him those options ahead of time. So maybe Sunday is the day you both sit down, you create your dinner plans for the day, and you can give him choices of what he's going to eat each day. And then maybe on Fridays, if he complies with everything, he's good, maybe he can have chocolate after his dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Anyone else?
I also think on that point is, I think the consistency is key. Like you have to, like my son challenges me a lot, and I just keep saying no. Like,
Yeah.
these are your 2 choices. There's no third choice.
It might take hours.
Yeah, after the 6th time, then he goes fine. And then it's like, okay, I'm gonna eat what you say.
Yeah.
So it is really being like,
Yeah, being firm.
The other thing I wanted to ask, so with the reflection, I notice sometimes like I try to reflect with my kids, but I don't know if they're embarrassed or what, but they don't want to revisit the thing. So like,
That's
what
understandable.
tips do you have with that?
So then I would enforce it, but maybe journaling or drawing about it, having them do that separately, maybe on their own where you're not visible, where they're maybe writing about how they felt in the moment, and maybe they can read it to you, or that you can read it instead of them having to tell you. That might be a good alternative if they're embarrassed. I mean, that's a completely valid feeling.
And then you can praise that too.
Yes.
Like, very good, like I like the way you express yourself through writing, and I understand you. So as long as you reassure that, you acknowledge that,
Yes.
they're gonna keep doing that and express themselves in that way, and it'll benefit them long term.
A lot of times they just don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing. I felt that way growing up.
I
I'm sure we all
still
did.
have that
We
feeling.
don't want to disappoint our parents. That's like a very common, valid feeling. So your children are probably experiencing that too, and that's why we want to praise them for the things that they're doing right, like blood. Anyone else? Any stories, comments, concerns?
Really great.
Awesome, yay. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bonus. So I used antecedent interventions throughout the presentation. I used 5 of them. Can anyone think of what the 5 were?
Visuals.
Visuals. I'll give you some hints. Well, you missed this.
Oh, the yoga.
Yes, yoga, physical activity.
Mindful moment part of it.
Yeah, the mindfulness,
The timer.
timer. And there was one more. Oh, I'm like trying to think now which one. Did I say O? I used a lot of pictures throughout my, I showed you guys. Yeah, there's always said, did we say visuals?
Yeah.
Okay, so timers, visuals, mindfulness, movement. There's one more. I have to pull it up. Physical activity. Oh, schedule.
schedule.
Yeah. How did I forget? I put the schedule up. All right. Well, Rhonda, I think you did get the most, so I'm gonna give you the countdown,